So Dorie, you're taking the camera into the place,
so.
and you're going to actually shoot video inside this place,
Yeah,
right?
we'll see how that goes.
Okay, sounds great. There's a Dutch girl just drove by on a bicycle. Look at that. That's where she's going, folks.
In Germany. So everything was shipped over there, as I said, cut and fit, and sent back down here.
Wow.
And I think Friesland, I think that green and yellow and blue flag is from Friesland.
From Friesland. There we go.
And well, if it's not, it's explained on the map up front. But this one is from North Brabant. That's where the majority of the people from here were from. And the yellow, red, and blue, and the red dragon on the yellow are from North and South Holland.
Okay.
And that's where the majority of the cool things are, the Koekenhof, the hide, the Amsterdam, and the Kinderdijk.
Oh, yeah.
So why we have a Dutch windmill here is because of our Dutch ancestry. Father Theodore Broek. He was a Dutch priest. Always wanted to work with the American Indians.
Uh-huh.
And he got permission to come to the United States in 1832. He was in the Ohio area for 4 years, and in 1836 he came to what is now known as Little Chute. And in 1836, the governor of the territory of Wisconsin purchased 4 million acres from the Menominee Indians for $700,000, or 17 cents an acre. And that encompassed everything from Marinette and Ocado, as far south as Oshkosh, and as far west as Stevens Point in Wausau. But Father Broek, when he got here, the Menominee chief had his people build him a hut down by the river, which is 2 blocks behind us. And it was probably 16 by 16, and that was his home, that was his church, that was his school where he taught the Indians how to read and write the English language, also how to the Catholic faith, and how to plant and grow more crops. Father Broek was fluent in 6 different languages and came from a wealthy family in the Netherlands. And when his parents died, he went back to the Netherlands to settle his estate. And whoever was settling that had walked off with all of his money.
Oh, no.
So being broke, he spent the winter in the Netherlands, and he taught 315 more people, 3 boatloads of Dutch people, to follow him back to what is now known as Little Chute. And he gave glowing reports of how fertile the land was. And some were disappointed when they got here because it was fertile land, but it was trees as far as they could see. So a few did leave, and they established Hollandtown, was about 6 miles east of us. And a few others went to De Pere and Bay Settlement. But the majority of them settled right here. When I was growing up, Little Chute was 99.9% Dutch cat.
Huh.
So that's why we have a windmill, Dutch windmill here. And the good thing about all the trees, they had plenty of wood to build their log homes. And the Dutch were also big shipbuilders, so they knew how to work with all the lumber. And Father Vandenbroek was instrumental in the building of St. John's Church, where they cut rocks out of the river, which is 2 blocks behind us, and the church is right above the hill. And they hauled the rocks up, they built the ramp and built St. John's Church. But he never got to see the completion of it, and he's actually buried in the basement of St. John's Church.
That's really
And 2 of the first settlers here were John and Arnold Verstegen, and they built a grist mill, but they built it down by the water. That's where Father Vandenbroek's hut was, because the water power is more consistent. If we don't have any wind, we can't operate. And they were also responsible for the building of one of the first bridges across the Fox River, so they could get wheat in from Kimberley and Combined Locks, which at that time was called Smithsville. And they called their mill the Zeeland Mills because they were from Zeeland in the Netherlands. And that mill burned down in 1930, and this is the original key from that mill. And we have to come in and turn the blades, the sails as we call them, into the direction of the wind if it's over 15 miles an hour. And this is one that one of our millers took before he turned the sail.
Oh, yeah.
Now these are pictures of the reconstruction of our mill. You can see here they put all the beams together. And you can see all these beams. They are notched and fitted and pinned with wooden dowels. There are very few nuts or bolts or screws in here. And you can see a good example of that on the grinding table here. Now, we had a 300-ton crane lifting these portions up here. Now, this is an 1850s design. So every one of these beams had to come up one by one, probably with a horse and a pulley system. Now this very top of the mill, we call the cap, is not fastened to the mill at all.
Oh.
It sits on rollers about this big around with a lip like a boat roller.
Uh-huh.
And there's a metal track here and a corresponding one underneath. And that sits on those rollers, so that can rotate 360 degrees. But the shaft that holds the sails is over 7,700 pounds. Now there's a brake here, you can see it right here. There's a wooden brake that clamps around the main gear, and that's what stops it. Now this is the rope we saw downstairs. And that would go one more floor above us. And you see how that rope is wrapped around that shaft up there? If you look up through this gear, there's a platform built on that shaft. And on the end of that shaft, there's a wheel that we drop on that platform. And as that's turning, that acts as our hoist to bring our wheat up. And then the wheat gets dumped into this hopper. From there it flows into this one.
Where's the hopper?
This one right
Oh,
here.
this one. Oh,
This
okay.
big one. Then it flows down that chute into this hopper. And from there into that feeding tube that we saw in that video downstairs.
Okay.
Right there. And then this shaft on the bottom is square. And the reason for that being, as that turns, that hits against that feeder tube. And it keeps it vibrating to get the continuous flow of wheat into the grinding sills. Let me sneak behind you. And we made some examples of our grinding stones. You can see here those little grooves.
Oh, yeah.
So the bottom one is stationary and the top one turns. The wheat comes into here and it turns, and the wheat falls out of those little grooves onto this little platform, and there's 4 paddles like that in there. And as that turns, that scrapes it around and it comes out that chute, and we can grind up to 600 pounds an hour.
Wow.
Now this is the wheat we use. This is a red wheat from the Dakotas. This is a partial grind or a cracked wheat that the brewers are looking for to make their mash. And this is actual whole wheat flour. And because it is an 1850s design and everything is wood, we cannot sell it for human consumption.
Sure.
Because it would have to be stainless steel. But everything that we've ground, all the volunteers have taken home, and we've made bread, pancakes, and whatever.
And is that what that is?
This is the flour, yeah, that's just a larger container. And if you look up at these teeth, see, it looks like they're steel, but they are not. And they run into that spindle up there.
Which spindle?
Right behind it. See those teeth meshing with those bars that go up?
Oh, okay.
See there? This is called a wallower, and that we can throw out of gear and run the sails without running the milling stone. But those teeth are made out of this, and this is a zobi from South Africa. It's called a red ironwood. And there are 97 teeth in there. The reason I know that is because the guy from the Netherlands had to come in and adjust every one of those teeth. And he told us.
It's got to fit just right.
Yeah, it wasn't meshing properly with that gear. It was rattling. So he had to come in and adjust every one of those teeth. If we're going to grind, then we need to put the sailcloth on. And then you can see that's wrapped around up there. And we take this loose and we unfurl it this way.
Okay.
And then you see these loops on here? Those have to get tucked behind these clips over here. So that's what you saw Lisa climbing this sail.
Sure.
They tuck those in. And then inside of here, there's wrapped up 3 ropes that one is hooked on about 3/4 of the way up, one halfway, and 1/4 of the way. And when this is all unfurled, those ropes come around here and they get tied to these legs. And that helps hold that sailcloth down. And it's tied here and then here. Now these lats are made of Russian larchwood from Siberia, and it's called the everlasting tree, and we're hoping that that's true. Now these are just held in with wedges. They're again no nuts or bolts. And this spring all of these wedges were loose because we had a bad winter, windy and cold. So we had to pull all these nails and drive those wedges in and crawl each one. Now these sails are 40 feet to the hub, from here to the hub, so it's 80 feet from top to bottom, and the whole structure is 110 feet tall. And now, because this is steel, this is grounded. You can see this is grounded, and there's a copper bar that runs all the way around here. And if you look up at that sail over here, you can see how that curves. These, as they go up, they step back, and then they come back out to get that little curve in there like an airplane propeller. And we need 8 to 10 miles per hour to run. And everything above that light blue up there rotates. Do you have any questions?
No, it's amazing.
And if you don't have any questions, we'll walk around this way and I'll show you. You you can see these notches go all the way around the deck.
Oh, yeah.
So we turn this wheel and loosen that chain up, hook it on a notch as far as we can go, and then we lift this chain out, and by turning this, that brings this that way, and that around this way, the sail. Now this large rope controls the brake. You pull that down about 3 feet, and then there's an arm that releases, and you let it up about 6 inches, and that arm catches a pin, and then that brake is released and it's free to turn.
Wow.
The sail closes.
And so that will turn the whole top.
That will turn the sails. That releases the sails. This is what turns the top.
Right.
Those rollers that I told you about.
Sure.
This will pull that around, and then we just keep rehooking until we get it in the position we want.
Wow.
Do you have any questions about this?
No.
And all these cedar shakes are from California.
And all these siding pieces are numbered and lettered so that when they were taken down in Holland, in the Netherlands, then they could put them back in the correct.
I didn't point it out to you, but in here, all of these beams are numbered too. See the Roman numeral 5 here?
Oh, yeah.
And then down here, it's the same number.
Oh, okay.
So they got back in the right position.
Everything had to match up.
Right. And if you think in 1850s, I mean, this is
Wow.
very ingenious.
Just how,
This is 110 feet tall. That's why this is also grounded.
yeah.
And these sail stocks are not attached to the deck in any way. It's all balanced on that cap.